Well, hello, everyone, and thank you for joining us today for a chat with Dr. Lindsay Grow with Grandview University. And today we're going to be chatting with Dr. Grow about the Dyslexia Endorsement Program at Grandview. We're going to talk a little bit about what that is and what it looks like at her institution. So welcome, Dr. Grow. Thank you for being here.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
Yeah, it's great to talk to you. Maybe just to start out, and I suppose I should introduce myself as well. I'm Katie Greving, and I'm the Executive Director of Decoding Dyslexia, Iowa. And I'll let Dr. Grow share a little bit more about her background.
Yeah, thank you for having me. This is a fun chance to just share about our program and what we're doing. This is my 14th year at Grandview, and just really excited about the opportunity to prepare teachers and pre-service teachers about structured literacy and science of reading methods, and just really getting on board with that. So we've started the second dyslexia endorsement in Iowa. Of course, the University of Iowa is the first one to do it. And we're excited to share more about how that's going and how our program is set up. And so
That's awesome. Well, we are excited to hear it. I know I am. I know I was just thrilled to hear that another college or university in Iowa was offering this. So, and you are the chair of the education department, is that right?
Well, yes, except my term just ended this
Oh.
week, and so that I've had it's a rotating term. The department chair is, and so I have served 7 years in that role, and so it was time for somebody else to take on. So Jackie Easter is going to be the department chair. That just started this week, and that'll give me more time to focus on the dyslexia endorsement. And we just got a grant with the Benedict Silverman Foundation for some structured literacy stuff. So I'm excited to be able to spend more time on that.
Yeah, so you'll be doing more teaching, more time on that grant, things like that.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, I thought before we get started, maybe I would just share a little bit about the dyslexia endorsement credential. I think a lot of people who follow us know about it, but maybe for people that are just joining, having this credential in Iowa was sort of the brainchild of the Dyslexia Task Force. And that was a group of people that met in 2019, mostly 2018-19, to try to figure out what we can do to make the situation better in Iowa for kids with dyslexia. And I served on that task force along with a lot of other great people. And the main problem that we identified was that there was just a lack of expertise. And almost all the problems that parents were having, that teachers were having, it was just a lot of it could be traced back to a lack of training, a lack of knowledge. So one of the recommendations of that task force was that this endorsement credential be created. And in 2020, right before the legislature shut down due to COVID, we were able to codify this endorsement requirement. Essentially, what that means is we got a law passed that said this endorsement has to be created. And it started at the University of Iowa, who did the pilot year. And now you, as you mentioned, have brought it to Grandview University. So let's talk a little bit about that. Tell me, or tell everybody, why did you want to have this at Grandview? Because I remember when it first came out, you were like, I'm going to bring this to Grandview. And it was pretty clear you were going to make it happen. So
Yeah. Well, I think my world turned upside down during COVID. My older two kids have dyslexia. And so that's when it became clear to me that teachers around our state, nation need more training, including myself. I wished that I had known different things. When you know better, you do better. But when I homeschooled them during COVID, I realized how much trouble we were in, and just really dug in and learned a lot. Taught my third son completely differently with different methods. But so it's a passion project, I guess, in terms of I really have my own kiddos in mind, and just really wanting to bring change to the state of Iowa for best practices for reading instruction. And so that's my initiative. And I love planning programs and bringing people together. And so was able to get some national experts and then bring together different local experts to write different courses, and teamed with the Iowa Reading Research Center. There was kind of an iterative process in terms of submitting to them for review, just to make sure that the program was best meeting, since they had done it once, they had some good feedback to give, and I really appreciated that, and made some good changes based on their recommendations, and really brought things together. So yeah,
Yeah.
so it's been a fun process to get it off the ground. Here, with my administration at Grandview, they're very excited about it. And then at the state level. So
Yeah. Yeah. Well, and I think maybe what you're not saying is how much work it is to get this going. I know you work super hard on it and you kind of alluded to it in what you said, but there is an approval process. It isn't just like you can hold out your shingle and say, oh, I'm offering this now. The Reading Research Center and the Board of Educational Examiners in Iowa have certain criteria that any dyslexia specialist endorsement program would have to meet. So I know you were mindful of that and made some changes and got that going. And so yeah, it's a lot of work. I know
a
to
lot of
get
work.
that.
Yeah. And
Yeah.
we're future goals of maybe being accredited by the International Dyslexia Association. And so we were always looking at what their standards would be,
Sure.
just making sure we were being mindful at the onset with the possibility of doing that. Though I think, that was enough to get the Iowa stuff going. So
Yeah. That's great.
A lot of
Great
work,
foresight.
but a good lot of team building and just making change. I always think of the advice you gave me one day about how to create change. Find friends, talk and plan, and be persistent. So like finding friends and talking and planning, like that was just fun. It was a fun process of creating these courses and how could the endorsement look. And I really think it is going to bring change to our state. So
yeah, absolutely. Yeah. So let's get into kind of the nitty gritty of what the endorsement involves. If I'm a teacher and I'm going to take this, first of all, how many credit hours is the endorsement that people would have to take? How many credit classes would they take?
Yeah, so it's 18 credits and it's a part of our master's program. So our master's program is set up so you get an endorsement and then some core classes. So it's 18 credits. You don't have to get the master's, but it is at the master's level. You have to have 3 years of teaching experience to be a part of the dyslexia endorsement. We also have a smaller, if you don't want the full endorsement, we have what's called a science of reading certificate, and that's not something through the state that you get credentialed, but Grandview does let you take some of those classes, and you can find out about that on our website. But we've had
I think, you can show us that in just a minute. I think you brought up a couple of important points. You had mentioned in order to apply for the dyslexia endorsement at any program, not just Grandview, but the University of Iowa, it's actually written in the requirements that somebody has to have 3 years of teaching experience. And, I remember pretty vividly when I was on the dyslexia task force, when that point came up. And a lot of people say, well, why is that? I don't feel like that's fair. What if I want to get this right out of school? And what I would share, I'm a parent, I'm not an educator, and the educators on the dyslexia task force felt very strongly about that. And their reasoning was that you just have a lot to learn when you're a new educator, and they felt that teachers needed to have that experience under their belt before they went and got this knowledge. So that is why it is there. It is a universal state requirement. And as you said, the dyslexia endorsement, it is a state credential offered through Iowa. Sometimes I get messages, people watch this from out of state and they're like, oh, can we get this in Kentucky? No, I mean, this is an Iowa specific credential, the dyslexia specialist endorsement. So
I mean, we do have a couple of people from out of state in our program. We do.
Okay.
And so I think it depends, like, I don't know what Kentucky's require. I mean, I lived there.
They maybe could use it to get something in their state.
Right. So I think if you're thinking from another state that you want to enroll in our program, then just check with your own state to see about that transfer of what the requirements, and make sure that our program will transfer. So we're happy to have people from other states in our program. But
well, that's great advice. That's really great to know. And I think so. It sounds like if you are from another state, you could take the courses. You would just have to see how they would apply to your own state's credential as opposed to ours.
Absolutely.
Okay, so 18 credit hours. It's part of a master's degree, but you don't have to get the full master's if you don't want to.
Right. Yep.
And if I'm going to take these classes, one of the biggest questions people ask me, well, is it online? Is it in person? Is it live? What does this look like in my schedule? So talk to us a little bit about that, about what that looks like at Grandview.
Yeah, we've really tried to design it to be adult learner friendly. And so is it online? Is it? Yes, it's all of the things that you just asked, because we we think adult learners need a combo of all of those. So we have regular live Zoom meetings, usually weekly, sometimes a little less. It kind of depends on what class we're in the sequence. Our assessment course and practicum, we bring students for 2 Saturdays with an optional 3rd Saturday, depending on if they're close or not, to just get some hands-on time with those assessments. And then we have a 3-day workshop in person as well at the beginning of the 2nd summer. So yeah, so it's designed so that people around the state and rural areas and things, it's accessible to them, but we would like them to be able to come. And then you're like, how do you do out of state people? Well, COVID taught us a lot about the possibilities of Zoom, and we can find ways to make different things happen. Yeah. So, but yeah, so that's how it's set up. It starts, it's really a year-long program. It starts in May. And then we run 2 courses during that first summer. So we just finished those. And then the fall, we have a assessment practicum and class. And then the spring, we have a methods class. And the following summer, they finish with their last practicum. So
well, and I'm thinking, if you're starting in May, that's really designed with an educator in mind, isn't it? Because, most in Iowa, they have mostly finished up their school year. And so then they're ready to kind of start with that. And it sounds like, I know that's a question I got from legislators a lot when we were trying to work on getting this in a law was, is this going to be accessible to everybody who can take this? They were obviously concerned about, people having to travel to the university site, and obviously Grandview is in Des Moines. But what you're saying is that if I'm a teacher in Northwest Iowa or, Northeast Iowa or anywhere, I can access these courses online, and I probably will have to come to Grandview a few times to do these practicums and other things, but it's largely the coursework is online.
The coursework is online, and like I said, we can work around it, but I think all of our students, even the ones from out of state, are coming in for those in-person days just because they want that opportunity to meet with their cadres. We have them grouped into these professional learning groups throughout their courses as a support network. And so they've been forming relationships with those people in their groups, and just then they'll have we have the instructors of the courses, but we also have supervisors for the practicum, so you get even more one-on-one attention for those components. So
well, and I think one of the things that makes the Iowa dyslexia endorsement a little bit unique, at least my understanding, is that 2 practica are actually required. There is an assessment one, and I believe an intervention one. Is that right?
Yeah, that's correct. Yep.
So that means that people that get this credential, for the parents that might be listening, you're going to have an educator who has gotten a lot of practical experience in how to assess reading difficulties and use that data to plan instruction, as well as delivering the interventions, which, as parents of kids with dyslexia, I know that just makes my heart happy to know that that training is going on. So
yep. And we've also looked at the Center for Excellence in Reading Instruction, the CERI tests, and at the end, ours will be able to take another class if they want to be able to get that certification. So and then they'll take the K-Peary test, which is from the International Dyslexia Association. So
so you're really trying to prep people for a lot of different certifications if they choose to go that way, is what I read.
There's some different options depending on your interests.
Wonderful. Well, let's talk a little bit about who is teaching these classes. So I know you have a lot of knowledge and experience in your professors and instructors. So tell us a little more about that.
Yeah, so I'm going to just share my screen here, which you can probably see, but it went away for me. So
I can see it. It looks good.
Okay, okay, so this is our dyslexia endorsement page on our Grandview website, and it tells what it is. Some of this that we've already been talking about. There's some drop-down menus about the course description, but to answer your question, if we scroll to the bottom here, you can see some pictures of the people who have been really instrumental in teaching, and then we had also some people who helped us build it. And then there's a drop-down menus here to tell more about them. So several of these went through the first University of Iowa group. Carrie and Lisa Emily and Lisa down here went
Yeah.
through the first cohort at the University of Iowa, and now they're instructing with us and supervising practicums, different components. Jessica is in Grinnell and got her dyslexia endorsement out of state. And then Elizabeth Hawksbergen is the executive director for the Apples of Gold, which is a literacy tutoring center. And I know she served on the dyslexia task force that helped to move forward some of the code in the state of Iowa. So just like incredible people. I've so enjoyed working with them to build the program and teach it. Also, shout out to Stephanie Staller and Tracy Hastings, who helped build the coursework. And so some information about them there. So
that's awesome. Well, that's a very impressive lineup of people. You know, many of them I know, some of them I just know their names and faces. Elizabeth, I have always considered to be one of the most knowledgeable people about dyslexia and structured literacy in our state. So that is wonderful to have her using her passion that way and having some of the new endorsees. So that's really exciting that you have all of that knowledge and credential on your
our theme is sort of, we're turning the tide and we're bringing change.
Yes.
So we talk about that all the time, that we all have spheres of influence where we can make a difference. And so I think all of these people come from slightly different spheres of influence and just intersecting for this great goal of making change in our state. And so we're passionate about that.
Yeah. And, you know, I find myself thinking that a lot when I talk to people like yourself that are just change making in your areas. You know, I don't work at a college or university or teach there. So, you know, I've always kind of tried to influence that maybe through a policy or talking to people. But when we grow our network like that and we have people like you that are doing that, it's just so exciting. And it just, you know, it reminds me of where we started and how far we've come. And we still have more to go, but it's just really exciting to see the ripple effect of all of this. So yeah. So, okay. So just kind of a quick review, 18 credit hours, they are graduate credits. You have this rockstar lineup of instructors. It's online courses with some in-person requirements, and people usually start in May and then they finish at the end of the following summer. Is that right?
Yes, that's right.
Okay. Okay. So in terms, people always ask me about cost. They always do. And my understanding is that's set by your university. Is that
it's set by our university? Is it on the bottom of this page? Oh, I don't think they've listed it here, but I'm just going to say it's affordable, you know, and if you're choosing the whole Masters of Ed program, then there's a scholarship available for that too. So that, you know, and I think that's a nice, you know, to have more variety in the state. And just there's different ways and delivery models that are going to work for different people. And so I'm glad that we can, you know, bring some, I mean, it's not, you know, free. I wish. I'm working. I am writing some grants to see if we can get there.
Well, you keep me posted on that. And, you know, I think I should Dakota Dyslexia Iowa, for anybody that, you know, maybe wants to know, that was something that we lobbied for pretty heavy last year. And we were pretty close to getting it. We had a couple legislators that were holdouts, but we are looking to establish state funded scholarships for people to get the dyslexia endorsement at any credentialed institution in Iowa. So, you know, if you're watching this, please watch for us to be talking to you more about that as the legislative session starts up in January. And again, our reasoning is because we know that our kids are going to be better served when they have somebody who is trained and knowledgeable in their school. And that's the first thing that I would get asked about this credential. When am I going to get one in my school? And you know, this is a long haul journey, and that's the more teachers we can have enrolled in these programs, the more likely every Iowan is going to say, oh, somebody with this training works in my school, and I'm going to go talk to him or her about my child and their needs and get them involved. And that's what we want, is we want some expertise in every building for every child, so that our goal is that nobody has to go to an outside tutor for instruction. And a lot of our leaders and people that work in dyslexia services often joke that they can't wait until they don't have a job anymore. And that is sincere. Like, they don't want to have kids learn to read outside of school. We're trying to bring this instruction in school. Right. So having you develop this program at Grandview is a big part of that, because it's now, you know, increase the number of educators that are going to get this training. So right now, if you're able to share, you said the first group started in May. About how many teachers or educators do you have enrolled? Are you able to say that and tell us?
I can say, because it was sort of a happy celebration where my administration was like, you can run it if you get 6. In less than a week, we filled to our cap of 15, and then we had to figure out how to open another section, and then we filled that too. And so we have 30 in this group.
You have 30 right now.
Yeah. Okay. And our next group we're already admitting for right now. And so apply early, because
they could fill up.
Filling, because they are like, I feel like we get like 1 a week that gets admitted. So
right. So that is super exciting. So for those who may remember the University of Iowa initial cohort, my memory is failing me a little bit, but I believe it was in the low 20s that they had. So now with this 30, think about that. That is more than double the number of educators. And as each year goes on, we're going to exponentially replicate this and create this. So that is just fabulous. And it sounds like, educators, if you are interested, you should look at the programs that are here and think about applying, because I think it really just speaks to the need and the demand, doesn't it?
It really does. Yeah. It's exciting, and it's also, scary. I don't know. But we can offer the program, and, the people seem to be really enjoying it who are in it too. So
yeah, well, that's amazing. So if people do have questions, it sounds like the website is a great source of information.
Yes.
So start at the website. I think there's phone numbers.
The website, and then I think my phone number and contacts on there, and I'll probably point you to our enrollment specialists, to answer further questions. So, happy to help you get through that process. So
yeah. Well, I think that's all the questions that I had for today. Is there anything else that you want to tell us that I didn't ask you, or anything else?
I don't think so. I just we're excited about bringing the change, and all the difference that we can make in students' lives across the state of Iowa. So thanks.
Well, I want to thank you for all that you did to get this started so quickly, because when we start changing higher education, I personally feel like we're really getting at the roots of the problem and not just trying to, bandage a symptom. So changes in higher ed are super exciting. And I want to thank you for all of your efforts.
Thank you. And thanks for all your inspiration. And
well, we'll keep at it, and together we hopefully will keep turning the tide. So
sounds great.
Okay. Well, thanks, Dr. Grow.
Yeah, thank you.